wondering why I couldn't find the meeting on YouTube. Okay, we're all set now.
Okay. So we have confirmed a quorum. We also had a motion to accept the minutes as mailed. And a second motion was by Nick Caimano, second by Juan. And there were no amendments, corrections. So, and it passed.
You
So
just might want to note for the record that your quorum's in person today. Just
we are in person. So now we came to the accounts payable. I asked the committee to review, or the board to review the accounts payable, and any questions came up. There was a question on the check that we made to pay the taxes of how the money from Glens Falls National and the check was written. The answer is that the $600,000 was loaned to the IDA from the Glens Falls National Bank. They deposited that amount directly into our account, and we wrote the check to the Washington County Treasurer for $1,227,524.52. So the taxes are paid, and now we wait for TDI to make good their first payment to us and their second payments to us, so we'll be made whole in that. Okay. Any other questions on the accounts payable? I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Dan Bruno. Do I have a second? Second by Nick Caimano. Any further questions? Roll call vote, please.
Craig Leggett,
Yes.
Ginny Sullivan. Yes. Juan Gonzalez,
Yes.
Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Mary King. Yes. Nick Caimano.
Yes.
Dave O'Brien.
Yes. Okay, carried. Next item of business is normally Tim Robinson does this, but Chuck is going in since Tim's not available. And also because we fired Tim as CFO, he's now a member of the board, so. Go ahead, Chuck.
Okay, so Tim and I and Ally met last week and to go through the financials, and I'll give a very high level overview of our review, and then if there are any questions, please let me know. On the balance sheet, as you can see, there is significant growth in assets with the addition of the Canal Side Energy Park for $10.5 million. You can also see our checking and savings is $984,000. That is before the transaction that we just talked about with the accounts payable, with the loan from Glens Falls National and the payment for the back taxes. Moving on to the P&L, see the income is at $10.9 million, with 10.5 to the non-operating addition of the Canal Side Energy Park. When you go and look at the operating revenue and total expenses, we are $23,000 ahead. On the operating revenue, we're at 333,000. 245 is due to new projects and fees for new projects and existing projects before this year, along with about $87,000 from National Grid grant for Canal Side. On the expenses, you'll see the total expenses about $310,000, 121 professional services, legal, engineering, and accounting, 74 for payroll and benefits, $57,000 directly attributed to Canal Side dewatering facility with maintenance, engineering, and legal work, $32,000 in operating expenses, insurance, rent, marketing, and office expenses. And then finally, there is $13,000 for the airport industrial park special fees and taxes. And that totals up to $310,000. Again, as far as the operating revenue exceeds total expenses by $23,000. So overall, we're in good shape. Any questions?
Okay.
Nice preparation. Yes, very good preparation.
Till next one. Okay. Anything else? Thank you, Chuck, for filling in for Tim.
check on that, on our services of fees, there were pretty much equal what was brought in last year.
And roughly before or after this, probably another 100,000 coming in. So we'll see. So thank you.
That's before CHPD.
I didn't even count those in there. But, so yes, so we'll probably have another $900,000, hopefully in fees coming in, maybe another 2.9. So we'll cover CHP when I get there. So we're done with financials. Michael,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everybody. Just a quick update on some of the projects that we've been tracing. Sharon mentioned 78-80 Main Street, that was last week. Moorcock project, the seeker and planning board approval was received last week as well. Also last week, Chairman, Mr. Barr and myself attended the Brookfield ribbon cutting in Queensbury. So if anybody gets a chance, I recommend you head over there. It's a state-of-the-art building. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm very proud of it. And it's as always should be. Hired people as well. So it's very impressive structure. So if you get a chance, I would recommend going to take a look at it. Upcoming this week, Wednesday morning, Mr. Barton and I will be attending the North Warren Chamber of Commerce monthly meeting. Meet and greet to talk about what the IPA and meet some of the members of the North Warren Chamber. Thursday afternoon, we have a meeting, a collaborative meeting with Warren County EPC project I initiated several months ago. Finally, just been supporting Mr. Barton as needed in terms of bringing up to speed on any projects and to any necessary contacts. That's all.
any question for Michael?
Just to comment on what we've been doing. If no one has seen Fowler Square, it is an unbelievable success. I have talked to the sheriff and the undersheriff about traffic problems with the air. The place is sold out in terms of residential.
People were skeptical they needed that property. I think they were proven very wrong. And I understand there's other people, or even maybe he'd be looking for another piece of property in Queensbury, Glens Falls area to build. He was so pleased with that.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Yeah, I know they got to figure out their traffic patterns.
I may never be to a meeting again. I live around the corner.
There's another way to get here.
He comes that way.
Isn't this supposed to be all covered by the planning board?
I don't even want to talk about this.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Michael. CEO report.
Okay, so today is day 15 for me. As you get older, you get wiser, you realize how much you don't know. That's why I'm in learning mode. I want special thanks to Allie and Michael and Dave. Allie has been hugely helpful having me understand the administrative processes and the lay of the land of the office. Michael has been most helpful with educating me on all his contacts and the prospects and making introductions. And we are having various meetings with various prospects this month. And of course, Dave has a wealth of knowledge and has not only been teaching me the ins and outs, but also introduced me to the supervisors, particularly from Washington County, and people like Laura Oswald and Beth Gillis. Dave was also kind enough to invite me to the Telescope Centennial Celebration in Granville back on Friday, September 9th. And then, of course, we have board member one-on-one meetings, and a couple have occurred and others are scheduled, so that will happen over the next 2 weeks. I think we'll be through all the board member one-on-one meetings. Other areas we've been focusing, obviously part of my learning curve is learning the policy and procedures manual. And as I've gone through those policies, I've found some opportunities from updates just to correlate some of the policies, particularly with some changes that recently happened with our bylaws. So we'll be working on that, Dave and Kara. Also, of course, having the UTEP review that was already initiated, and Dave will talk more about the timing for the UTEP review. And then, as I mentioned at the Executive Park Committee meeting back earlier this month, we have opportunity to really form a solar policy as more and more solar projects are evolving in our area. And as we look at other IDAs with solar policies, we're realizing it'd be smart for us to develop a solar policy. So that is under construction. And just on Friday, Dave and I had a conference call with Wayne County CEO with a wealth of information that's going to help us form a policy. Moving forward, I'll try not to be redundant with what Michael said and what our chairman will say, but we Dave, our chairman's going to talk about the CHPE Kiewit laydown, so I will skip that. We also have Canal Corp. They have recently gotten back to us on allowing us new access into the park for better access, more efficiency for people coming into the park. So that is in the works. We have other companies that have recently expressed interest in the park for short-term rental. We have a company from Quebec that is interested in bringing in pulp and then going outbound with lumber. They're looking for 2-3 acres for movement of those materials. So we have toured the site with them and we're waiting for a response from them as far as exactly what they're interested in. We've also been speaking with local dairies looking for 2-3 acres at least for anywhere from 3 to 6 months for storage of corn. And there's more to come on that. We've given them information and we're waiting for a response. There's been work, of course, with the sewer project, and Dan will be talking about that a little bit later. And then, of course, we had the closing for Glenn National Bank and the payment of back taxes. Moving on to the airport industrial park, we have the New Leaf solar opportunity in front of us, and that's on the agenda. So we'll talk about that when we get to that on the agenda. And we're also looking to possibly merge some lots, and again, that's on the agenda. We'll talk about it later. In the other category, there's been a couple of ribbon cuttings in the Adirondack One ribbon cutting back on the 16th of August, just after our last board meeting. And then, as Michael pointed out, the Brookfield ribbon cutting was on September 13th. And during that ceremony, we were able to meet some other people that might have some new opportunities with the IDA. So everyone in ribbon cuttings seems like there's always opportunity to find new leads. Mike and I spoke with 2 young men looking to launch a new manufacturing business just last Thursday. And we also are engaging a local developer looking for workforce housing in Queensbury. Still very early in the stage, but it seems like it's a good opportunity. As far as upcoming events in September, Michael and I will be at the Northbourne Chamber of Commerce monthly meeting this Wednesday morning. Allie and I will be meeting with our accountant, Mike McCarthy, to go over our financial reporting processes. We're also having a potential workforce housing site tour in Lake George on the 22nd. And then this Friday, we're meeting with the USEDA, the Economic Development Administration. They're doing a whirlwind tour through Washington County for some projects which they provided grants for. Then the following week, we're going to have a canal side master planning session. We're realizing as now that taxes have been paid and the various projects underway, it makes sense to have a master plan. So we're starting to kick off that initiative. We also have a prospect visit in Fort Anne on the 28th. And then we have 2 applications that might need some modifications. The Fort William Henry application might need some modification. And then the Sooty Adirondack housing application may need some modifications. So we'll be working on those in the next couple of weeks. So with that, that's my report up. Unless there are any questions. We'll talk about all.
Okay, good. Any other questions, comments?
Just, I look forward to seeing Michael and Chuck up at North Warren on Wednesday. Thanks for coming up.
absolutely.
Okay, good. Thank you. Next item of business, I'd like to skip to CVE. CVE Carson is online here. So we had a brief discussion last meeting and he was asked to reconsider that. So we brought it back to the board. Chuck, would you take over this, please? You're the solar guy. I don't know anything about solar.
I'm becoming the solar guy. So as we know, CVE, well-established organization, is looking to utilize about 80 acres use about 40 of the 80 acres for a 5 megawatt solar system located off of Quaker Road. As you go where the Walmart is, you go back there, Walmart is to the right. The property that CVE is looking at is straight ahead, is slightly to the left. They have an application for the sales and use tax exemption, mortgage tax exemption, and pilot exemption, which will have more work to do. So the question in front of us is, do we accept the application and then continue with doing the work that's necessary for the application? With that, Carson, before I turn over to the board, do you have anything to add on to what's happening with that project?
Sure. Yep. Great to see the board tonight. Thanks for having me again. I'll give a quick overview of the project just to refresh everybody's mind. It's a 5 megawatt project located in the town of Queensbury. We originally started working on it in 2020. We have an option to purchase the property from Forest Enterprise Management. That extends into 2023. We received full approvals from the town, seeker negative declaration, site plan approval, special use permit, a local wetlands permit as well this summer in July. And we're in the process of moving towards construction. So we're selecting our construction contractor. We have financing lined up, moving towards closing of that financing. And we should break ground on this project in early 2023. And we're seeking a sales tax exemption and a mortgage recording tax exemption and a pilot for the property taxes associated with just the facility. So the property taxes, the town, county, and school property taxes on the facility. We would still pay special district taxes on the facility at the assessed rate. And we would pay taxes on the underlying land as well on the assessed rate. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Any questions for Carson?
So on how does it happen for the land assessed value? This was a discussion that we had at the Board of Supervisors meeting the other day because we considered about pilots for large scale solar. So if it is, say, under a vacant forest designation now, does that get changed when you put a solar installation on it?
Yep. The land will be assessed at a higher value. It will move from vacant to a commercial use. It's a big question mark for us. You know, what will the new assessed value be? But and we don't know. It's a gray area until the assessor actually reviews it.
I think a part of the process is that this is one of the first solar projects in Warren and Washington County. And how the state has mandated assessment has changed. I understand that's on hold now, but I think it's a conversation that both Karen and I have talked about, is that we need to get Terry Ross involved in this, because we want to go the right way. And I didn't think about the assessment for special district taxes, which is new to my head here. So again, a lot of conversation. Do we do it based on megawatt? Do we do it based on property value? And how does that do? I have some concerns about both methods, but again, Once we have this, we will sit down and try and get Terry Ross together and sit down, and talk to her, because we all have questions and we want them to make sure we're working with them cooperatively in something that's so new to both of us. And hopefully Terry has been able to gather some more information. She is part of the state assessment. She used to be the president of the State Assessment Association. So hopefully she has more inroads, and we do have a resource we can use. Greg Schneidley. Did I say that right?
You did.
Okay. I'll remember one of these days. Who can help us out from the other side of the point. So we've also talked, like Craig said, or like Chuck said, with Wayne County, who's done a couple, and this is an education for all of us. So I would say it wouldn't be assessed for less than $100 million. Everyone smile. Never going to happen.
Except Carson. Yeah.
Okay, good. Any other questions? Craig?
Right, does that substation have enough capacity?
It does. Yep. That's one of the first things we did. We cleared it with National Grid. They performed a study, took 60 business days, and they came back to us with a whole quote to connect to the grid and the work that needed to be done. And we're ready to go there.
As I remember, part of the process is you can go reserve the space before you get into all the details and engineering.
Yes. Interconnection capacity is first come, first serve.
Mhm.
And we submit it for interconnection. That's the very first thing we do once we have an agreement with the landowner.
So under the new laws, you know better than I do, isn't it easier to expand the available power source there by you? And I'm not saying you, but another company could buy more space as long as they did the upgrades.
Yes. Yep. And I don't remember the specific stats of that substation, but at a point you have to upgrade the substation, and that's the really expensive piece of work.
Maybe you can sell the substation we've got and relocate it over here. We own a substation, by the way. The idea
Okay.
there.
Wow.
It's 5 miles away from there, so maybe a little more. So good. Any other questions?
There, I will say, Dan was going to say, Warren County is in agreement with another solar company to build out on the airport, and they are using that substation as well.
And that was 20 megawatts, was it? Was that larger?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I think it was 20.
About 4. It's under 6.
Okay. Okay. For some reason, I thought it was bigger.
Right, Carson, there's kind of a cutoff over 5, isn't there?
Yeah. The community solar projects are cut off at 5 megawatts.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? I'll entertain a motion to move this forward and accept the application. Moved by Dan Bruno. Do I have a second? Mary King. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Motion carries. Thank you, Carson. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, Dave. Have a nice
Have a
night.
good day. Yep, you too. Okay, Canal Side Energy Park Sewer Water Update. Dan Bruno.
What's that?
Canal Side. Sewer water.
Okay. Chuck, Dave and I and others met with Paul Yeh at LaBella's office on Wednesday, the 14th. And Paul Yeh, the project engineer, presented a report, if you will, sewer report. Bottom line, he presented 4 options. Let me back up. The Washington County Sewer District is under consent order. They have multiple combined sewer overflows. In other words, sanitary sewer, storm sewer combined.
which for many years now. DEC is for the communities separate, they get rid of that because you're treating storm water, which doesn't need to be treated. It affects the plant, the balance, etc. So there are multiple areas in Washington County Sewer District number 2 where there are combined flows, stormwater and sanitary. In order for the Canal Side Energy Park to utilize, take advantage of, or whatever, 100,000 gallons per day of sanitary sewer capacity, which is what we're targeting right now, DEC requires that we mitigate from all of these combined sewer overflows 400,000 gallons. In other words, we have to undertake a project that removes 400,000 gallons of storm water during the event drainage from that system. So Paul presented us with 4 areas. We reviewed them. Joe Brilling and Jason Deno for the Washington County Sewer District were there in attendance, as well as Beth Gillis and another young lady. And
Norville,
yeah. What's your first name?
Norville.
I don't remember first name.
I'm not sure which is their first name or last name. It's combined first, last. I don't remember.
That's her last name. But anyway, but she's a planner, I believe, with development.
Correct.
But anyway, so we discussed these 4 different areas, which won't mean anything to you if you don't have maps. I don't know if you all got this report. Remember, I don't think so. But anyway, in here, we're depicted and described 4 different areas in Washington County Sewer District 2. And we evaluated and discussed those 4 and agreed on 2 that Paul Guillet Labella would proceed with evaluating. So now they need to go out, take flow measurements, et cetera, and evaluate how, when we take that water out of there, that combined overflow, and that water is removed, we have to put it somewhere. So they need to look at flows, how much, where, what structures, pipes are going to, et cetera. Determine that they have that 400,000 gallons of overflow, if you will, combined storm sewer. And then look at where do we take that to, discharge it to a river or some other means of getting it away from the sanitary sewer. So it was a good meeting. Again, collectively, we gave Paul direction as to 2 of those 4 options to proceed with and evaluate and come back to us with his findings and also estimated cost once we determine where we're going to take that stormwater from, how much it's going to cost us to get rid of it, convey it elsewhere. So, and I'll keep tabs on Paul, see how he's progressing. I don't remember if he gave us a date at that meeting as to when he'd be.
Oh, I thought it was an email came out on that because what he found was those 2 on the first one, those are dry.
Oh,
wells.
it's the dry well. The other
So
was-
it defaulted to the one that wasn't.
Okay,
I thought you were copying an email.
I didn't see that, but that's
Okay.
not surprising. In one of these scenarios, there were a couple of structures that he was not sure were they manholes, catch basins, or were they dry wells. Turns out they're dry wells, so we can't really use those. We can't use that system. It's already dissipating that water into the ground. So accordingly, he's zeroing in on that second option, if you will. But I will keep you informed. And once we have determined what system, what part of that system we can take that flow from, where we can put it, how much it's going to cost, then we can proceed with some detailed design as to sanitary sewer and this system, number one, the system to remove that 400,000 gallons. Is there any question? Do you understand what I'm talking about here? Right, so we're gonna take some water out of the sanitary system, that doesn't belong there. In the amount of 400,000 gallons, which sounds like an awful lot, but
And it's 400,000 gallons at what rate per month, per year?
per an event. In other words, there are different, even tell me, when you look at stormwater, I don't know if you're familiar, you look at different events, a 1 year event, 2 year, 5 year, 10 year, 25, 100 year. Those correspondingly have different intensities. In other words, the precipitation in inches for a 1 year event, that's the heaviest storm you get in 1 year would be 2.22 inches, as opposed to a 10-year event, which would be 3.70 inches. And that also, not to get into the weeds too much, corresponds to the intensity. In other words, how much rainfall you get over a 24-hour period, et cetera. So that's a good question, because you go to, you say DEC, well, which event do you want us to look at? And they go, I don't know, you figure it out, we'll tell you what happened. But that's the equivalent, 400,000 gallons is the equivalent of 0.62 cubic feet per second. So initially, 400,000 gallons sounds like an awful lot, but 0.62 cubic feet per second, not really as onerous as it might sound. You just need to determine various events, which one DEC would like us to use. That's what Paul will develop. So, any other questions? That clear as mud?
There's my. I'm getting to learn some of this engineering stuff.
Paul is proceeding and we'll keep you abreast of his findings when we next see. I think he was talking about possibly toward the end of the year. Remember this report? It takes a while to set the equipment up. Very structured, measured flow, et cetera, et cetera.
So we also have 2 meetings set up. One is with the core group from us on Monday to discuss the overview. Of where we want to go. I think it was a little clear from the meeting that they were being linear versus bilateral. We have a $600,000 grant we have to spend out and recoup by September next year. And for that, we wanted to have more design engineering done for water, sewer, natural gas, electricity. And we need to make sure that we're doing a multi-task event versus lateral. To be fair, Paul wasn't our project manager when they first started with Sean Doty, which was, from an engineering standpoint, from LaBelle, is probably one of the best project managers Chazen had, and he left. But anyhow, so it defaulted to him. So we are having some conversations, and on the next week, we have a meeting with LaBelle themselves to discuss our concerns and how we want to go forward in terms of making sure that this is done. We have a certain time frame where we need to get the MBRC funds spent, and also the not the EPA, the congressional member item money spent, which is another $950,000. So we have plans. We'll sit down and do that and lay that out, so we're getting multiple tasks and not just sort of unilateral. Some people are great engineers, but don't have the great vision for the future. So.
As a rule, engineers do not be good.
No comments.
Say,
In this case, it's true. Okay. So any questions on that? Okay, project updates. The Scotty, I don't know if you've been by there. I don't know if they had the foundation, they're waiting for the building to come in. Hilltop contacted me actually last week. Still waiting for the final sign off on the ADJ, a jurisdictional determination on that piece of property. Our engineer from ACOS, Army Corps of Engineers, said we'd have it by now, but we haven't seen it yet. So I will put some more pressure on him. Next item was CHP laydown yards. They contacted me today. We're supposed to have the draft of the contracts back from them. And their option period will be their option period. And then on top of that, they will be looking to start lacing in March or April. I can't remember what he told me. But there'll be an option period before that. They want it signed up so that they are not losing it. We find that very valuable. They were down there surveying the potential areas last week. So moving on to,
I might add that.
Go ahead.
Talk briefly with Chuck about this, but I think it'd be a good idea to put together a little spreadsheet. Because we're following up various entities that are looking to occupy
Mhm.
canal site. I don't know if any of those would be confidential, but I get together with them and do it. There's a number of them we have that are kicking the tires, as they say. Right now. It'd be good to be able to
one keeps on kicking the tires.
And that list would actually include both short-term and long-term processes.
Yeah.
Everybody that want, and that's what the makers would do, is say, here's the entity, here's what they're looking for, duration, et cetera.
Next, New Leaf Energy, letter of intent revision. Chuck?
Okay, so as a reminder, New Leaf has approached us for the airport industrial park to use 18 acres for solar. Good news is majority of those acres are on wetlands. You have the proposed agreement for board approval. It's a letter of intent. It's 18 acres, as I mentioned. Some things that we've negotiated, they started at looking for $5,000 for the option for the first 540 days. We increased that to 8,000. They also asked initially for the rent to be $15,000. I'm sorry, $1,500 per acre per year. We bumped it up 300, and they accepted at $1,800 per acre per year. We've also added construction rent. The original proposal did not have any construction rent. Again, the key here is that this is land that we otherwise probably would not receive too much income from. There is a map on the proposal, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the site when we go into the topic of looking at the merger of lots on the national park. So with that, I'll stop and answer any questions about the letter of intent. It's only a letter of intent. Yeah.
On option payment, is that construction period?
There is, the option is for them to do the testing and preliminary engineering work before they would come back and look to sign an actual agreement to lease the land. So right now, it's just an option for them to do their work to sort of lock down the property. For first, they have 540 days, and they're looking for perhaps another 365 days.
So the actual sequence is that, from what I understand, is the first is they need to lock up the, like Carson was telling you, the space on the substation.
It's the same one, by the way.
Yep.
It's the same substation.
And once he does that, they'll go to potentially signing a more formal option / agreement. So that will be the next step. We'll probably get that within 2 or 3 weeks after they've looked to make sure they have the space and move forward on it. So we'll have more. Won't happen right overnight, but right now I need authorization to sign the option agreement and get it started. Need a motion. Motion by Dan. Do I have a second?
Okay.
Nick. That was quick. Any more further discussion? Again, this isn't committing us to it, just starting the process and learning more about it. All in favor? Carried. Anything else, Chuck?
We want to move on to the merger of the lots. The lots there, industrial park. Is that good, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Okay, so this topic was talked about at the last meeting. Since then, we've generated a map that was in your package. The map is a bit color coded, showing lots in question that are being merged, which are outlined in red. The yellow lots are lots that we believe are commercially saleable. And then the pink lots are the lots that we are designated as the wetland lots. Just as note, the lot on the left, when you look at the picture, is the new leaf lot that we just talked about. In the upper right-hand corner is the other large lot of wetlands. We are figuring we might be able to relocate some of the wetlands from the saleable lots to make those lots more saleable and increase the wetlands in the upper right-hand corner, and perhaps use that property for solar. Again, solar, as you know, is allowed on the wetlands. Trading, that's very good. Trading? Yes, that's exactly it. Where when you look on the map we sent out, and in the yellow areas, you see some dark areas. Those areas we would look to trade into that lot. We do. Mr. Chairman is going to meet with the town assessor to go through some issues associated with the fees and whether or not the fees can be consolidated and reduced. So there is a little bit more homework that will be necessary on this. We feel as if this configuration will really maximize the usage of the airport industrial park. So with that, are there any questions?
So just filling it in, I didn't talk to the assessor today. I talked to Bill LePan, who is the property guy in Washington County, does all the mapping and stuff. Talked a little bit about today. He said you got two choices. He says, first is that you could abandon the property, abandon those lots out of the subdivision, because that phase 2 is considered a subdivision. So you can abandon them out of there, which would take them out of the district and allow you to consolidate the properties. He said they may have some concerns about doing that because you're not supposed to do that to get away from paying taxes. Well, we're not getting away from paying taxes on usable property. This is unusable property. So I'm going to sit down and talk. I'm going to get a hold of Colleen, who is the Kingsbury assessor, and talk to her about it. There's another approach where now that I think it's assessed right about $25,000 an acre over there. I'm going to go back and say, we got two choices. We can abandon the property, at which time the special district taxes would, we could merge lots and special district taxes taxes would go down substantially, or they can lower the assessment to a realistic value, because when they assess those, they were assessed as industrial properties that were sold in terms of that. So I'm also going to go back to our assessor. We did an assessment on most of those properties and talk to her about it. And should we grieve the assessment and have the assessment lowered, would probably achieve the same purpose, but we'll see. We want to see how she wants to approach it. I think it's only fair to us. We're going to own that property forever. Especially that North 40. There's no reason why we should have to incur that many taxes on the unusable piece of property. It's not even ag. Can't even be used for ag. So I wish it was. Correct. So that's where we're going forward. So just to let you know that. So still ongoing. We'll have more next month. I'll try and get a hold of her and talk to her this week.
So we really aren't seeking any approval, right, Mr. Chairman? Just to move
Correct.
forward with the court process.
Got to figure out the best way to do it. Yeah. Okay, anything else we missed there, Chuck, or you wanted to fill in there?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. New business.
One thing though,
Oh,
on that with the lots reconfiguration and new leaf
Mhm.
proposed location, is there any foreseeable problems at the wetlands for this proposal? You know, everything.
No, they are looking at the wetlands. They've done an initial overview of the wetlands. He doesn't feel there's a problem. Of course, the next step, when they reserve the space, I got the engineers to take a look at it. But we'll work something out. There is probably 14 acres there. I think it is 14, 16 acres. So they'll know better. We will end up having they will be paying paying taxes on the increase what's above ground. So I think that our property will still be tax exempt, but I want to clarify that too. Any read on that?
It depends on whether or not the two parcels can be merged or not, because when I talked to Bill, he made it sound as if it's like an application process. It's not necessarily like a 100% this is going to happen.
Mhm.
So his suggestion was to come in, talk to him, talk about the parcels to be merged specifically. The underlying property will remain exempt,
Mhm.
but
Okay. Well, he was actually looking at the IDA park land and not, or the canal side and not IDA property for some reason. Because when I went and talked to him, he had the list all printed out and looked at it. I said, well, we're talking about the
Oh,
wrong piece of land.
oh.
So that's why he was talking about ag district and non-ag districts. When I went through on the
Okay,
map,
okay.
all of a sudden it dawned on him that, no, that's not the property we're talking about. It is,
The
IDA
over
properties,
in
yeah.
Kingsbury, okay.
now the constructed wetlands. I mean, there's not much we knew that anyways, because
Right.
we got paid to make a constructed wetlands. Good deal, bad deal. We got paid, caused a lot of other problems when we did the constructed wetlands because the wetlands spread farther than normal, but
Well, because I asked him about the one thing that, remember when we met a while back about the abandonment of the dish of those, some of those properties in that district? Was that ever completed?
no.
Remember like a couple years ago,
Mhm. Oh,
remember that list? And we had to update the list.
oh,
and
no,
then
no, those were never done because that is going to be part of this, combining the sewer
Sewer.
district with
And we had to ask for certain parcels to be removed from that.
removed from the sewer district.
Right,
That still will be taking place
okay,
because why are we paying sewer on lots that would never use sewer?
yeah.
They get no benefit out of it. We may have to pay the ad valorem, but not the. that's
So
all
that
we're
makes
paying
sense, because
now.
I asked him about that and he was like, well, I'm not really sure. So he thought I was talking about,
No, the sewer district is a
Not
long
the-
process. It's got to go to the state
Right,
legislature
right,
for approval and all
yeah.
that, so we'll see. Any other questions on that?
Just to add on to it, New Leaf is willing to pay $8,000 to go down the path. So that is a signal of confidence that Terrence Nolan did tour the property. So I think he's been fairly optimistic. But more to learn when they do the more detailed engineering.
Okay, more kind of final approval, you have a resolution to send out that does the final, they passed their seeker, got all the planning board approval, so they're ready to do that, and I think they did a negative deck they don't need.
yeah, they treated it as an unlisted action, but the town planning board found that there was no further need for environmental review on the property for the project, I'm sorry.
Okay,
So they issued a negative declaration. So this resolution affirms, ratifies all the previous approvals that you previously made, pointing them agent. And then if you recall, we did a subsequent resolution, I believe in August,
Mhm.
that set out the specific benefits. Yeah, and then this resolution satisfies the final two contingencies, which were the town board approving of the pilot and the town planning board issuing a negative declaration with respect to the property.
so I need a resolution to approve that resolution. Motion by Craig, do I have a second? Mary King has a second, Juan seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Oh, I forgot, we're supposed to have roll call votes on these.
Yes.
Craig Leggett,
Yes.
Ginny Sullivan.
Yes.
Juan Gonzalez,
Yes.
Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Mary King. Yes. Nick Imano,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien.
Yes. Motion carried. Next item is Ally. Talked about it last meeting, but we need to go out for a rebid for a bid for an RFP for an independent auditor. Go ahead.
Yes, so last week I sent out RFPs to 6 companies. I mostly took what the IDA had done prior to us hiring WDR. So I sent them to BST Financial Management Consultants, Joe LaFura, CMJ, Jenkins Beecher and Bethel, Marvin and Company, and EFPR. The deadline date I put on the RFP is for October 15th, before our October board meeting. I have received an email from EFPR, Thomas Smith, just asking questions about the RFP, and he intends to submit one. At this point in time, that's the only response I have received, but it's in October, so they still have time. If there's anyone else that you would like me to contact, let me know, and I can send them an RFP as well. I'm afraid this might be our only response, and it'd be nice to have comparisons. That's all.
Well, the nice thing about EFRP, if they win the bid for it, they can do all my organizations in one meeting. They do the regional planning board, they do the county, they do the Washington County LDC. EFRP. That's a firm out of Rochester that does a lot. They do the regional planning board, Washington County LDC, the county. So, and they have to interview me for all of those. So we can all do it all one shot. Maybe you'll reduce the rate if you tell them that. Yeah, so we'll see. Okay. Good job, Ally. New member appointment. I think we talked about that. Tim Robinson is now a board member. So he can no longer be CFO. So we'll move forward with that. Welcome, Tim, wherever you are. The other item was a bridge. I think it was in the paper, but as part of paying the taxes, they have agreed to be lead agency on replacement of the bridge. What lead agency does, replacement of the bridge, if we didn't have them as lead agency, our local match would be 20%. Having them be the lead agency would then become eligible for Marchicelli funds, which the local match is 5%. So just a delta on what I know of the price of replacing that bridge is about $300,000 credit to our part. So 400,000 versus 100,000. Plus the other thing they do that is hard for a lot of non-highway superintendent or DPW people is the paperwork and tracking the paperwork it has to do with replacement of the bridge. It's very complicated, and they find that most that are not done by a county or a large city town fail. So it's a good benefit to us to have that do it. They will also cash flow the $100,000 in cash flow the entire thing. So we just will pay our 5% in exchange for, they will take that temporary bridge for use at the county level in the future. So that's just an even swap. So it's a credit to us to have that cooperation from the county. Next item of business wasn't on the agenda, but we did talk about we're in the process of transferring the road from Fort Edward line into the facility to the town of Fort Edward. That should take place later this month. We have a target of getting it done by October 1st, because October 1st, if it not happen by October 1st, they won't get their CHIPS money for that. And that's primarily the reason why they want this. Fort Edward has very little town roads. So we're adding substantial amount to their town, and they'll get the CHIPS money. So they have asked us as part of that to purchase a minimum title policy for the road, probably 900 to 1,100 depending. So what does depending mean?
Well, I can't, they wanted a minimum policy, so I asked them what they wanted for that. It's usually $30,000 or $40,000 coverage. And the coverage is, the premiums are regulated by New York State, so they fluctuate based on the coverage amount. So I'm waiting for them to confirm with me the amount, and then I will confirm the premium and whatever the search fees are. And then, so I think it's gonna be enough general
How much
ballpark.
it cost us? What it cost?
About $1,000, give or
I
take
think-
a little
I
bit.
think, If anybody needs our help, it's for that CHIPS thing is a very important thing. I think we should do it. I will move that if you want me to.
Moved by Nick, do I have a second? Dan, any further discussion?
This is for what's inside the village section?
Oh, this is first inside the town. The road is inside the town.
Okay, so all from 196 down?
No, this will be from the Fort Edward line to the gate. Not the first gate, the second gate, the big gate,
Going into the park.
right by the scale, yeah.
Okay.
So
I moved
we got a second. Do we have a second?
No, yeah, yeah.
We have a second? Second by Dan. Okay. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Anything else come before the committee?
Yes. I have something I'd like to talk about. And I'm not sure if we shouldn't talk about this in executive session, but as I go along, if you find I should, hit me over the head and we'll do so. I think that.
You got a hammer?
Yeah, he doesn't need one. He's.
Here, here, Chuck.
bigger than I-
Here, Chuck.
I think that this organization is growing stronger. And this organization is the Warren and Washington County IDA. But within that Warren Washington IDA, we have another IDA. And I think, can I keep going?
Yeah, you haven't
think
crossed the
that-
line yet.
I think, well, it's Glens Falls.
Yes, I know.
I think that with the manpower we have now and the brain power we have now, compared to what they have,
Mhm.
is very significant. And Glens Falls, as we all know, is landlocked. It's very difficult,
Mhm.
and we seem to know how to do that. What I'd like to have happen is that Chuck maybe sit down with Kara and find out the differences, and because I think that the city gets some stuff that we can't get, but we don't. I don't know about that.
I think it's the other way around.
I'm sorry,
I think it's the other way around.
other way around.
Yeah.
Well, either way, I think that I'd like to see if we can somehow merge our operations so that we have a Warren Washington IDA, and we don't have to worry about what's happening in the city, and we can help them. That's my point.
So we have talked about that. We talked about with Kara. We talked about with, what's her name? Judy
Judy.
Calgiero.
Yeah.
And when we talked about it was when the change was, mayors is taking place.
Yeah.
And we still have in a slate. I think that the issue is that Bill Collins has been underwater with getting up to speed. I think we are getting to a point where we can have that conversation. And I think that conversation, in my eyes, is, while we can't abolish the Glens Falls IDA without an active legislature, I think there are ways to exactly what you said, is that if we can find ways to share knowledge and share expenses, I think it'll work out for everyone. I think that the economy of scale we have would be better, and you are right. I think we've got city people who have very heavy demands on them. And, I really like to see that, but we are re-energizing. Now we've had a change in the ARCC, which slowed some things down. I think we're also trying to work with them and EDC to get more cooperation with us. And I think we have a meeting scheduled.
we are working on the schedule. Yes, the offer has been made and we're working on the details to finalize the schedule.
I want it tomorrow.
I didn't mean to put more tonight.
That's okay.
I didn't mean to put more work on you.
Oh, it sucks. I got a 7 o'clock. I can't.
There's a football game on.
Uh,
There's 2 football games on. I just think it's in all of our interests in Warren County and Washington.
I agree. And Judy has been for it. I wouldn't say for discussing it, because I think they think there's our economy of scale. One of the things we'll have to look at if we do that is that how do we make the board synchronous in terms of that? I think there's ways to work on it, but I think that we should make sure that we have a member from Glens Falls on ours and vice versa.
Right.
And it will be things to do, but I don't know how to do that. I don't know what restrictions we have on the board from our legislative intent, but that's why we pay the big bucks to her.
That's right. No more golf matches. You know, it's work.
And I'm bribing her with Martha's tonight.
See, I was fighting myself. I said, whether I could put this on, I should put this on. I didn't know what the hell to put it under.
So it's surprising enough, and this is done in public, but first of all, I'd like to thank Glens Falls Nash for working with us through this tight time frame and getting this done, because we really need this clear, and we've already benefited to it at least $300,000, if not $400,000 in this. So I think that Dave Kaiser and Mark Galo have been more than cooperative with this and extended over backwards. What they said is we do residences all day. We do commercial all day, $3, $5, $10 million. We do that all day. But who in God's name ever heard of a $6 billion project? And the problem they had was just getting their arms around what the hell is a $6 billion project? So interesting enough, we had a conversation with one individual at the winery before we all had any wine, who was talking about he thinks that there are so many organizations out there that there may be an economy of scale. We're working on doing that for multiple organizations. We don't know if they're succeeded or not, but that was strange because I've had those thoughts all the way along. We hear people saying we want to get rid of XYZ corporations. By charter, it's very hard to do. I mean, to dissolve the Glens Falls IDA would take an act of legislature, to do change like LDC and get unified, not leadership, but administrative tasks. That's workable. To get rid of the LDC, almost impossible. So I think that people need to understand that if we can do things as economy of scale, and I think we can help step in some of those areas. So yes, thanks, but we have been talking about it.
Murphy was trying to find a way to be CEO of a $6 billion company. That's what.
Yeah. Okay. I noticed they didn't offer to fund TDI.
No.
So anyhow, anything else?
We discussed here, with the CHP down there.
We did. Chuck mentioned it, or did we?
No, I don't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we did. But anyway, CHP laydowns. I should have the contracts today. Yes, I did talk to them because they want to start in March or April. They want to start leasing March to April with an option in place to protect themselves, so we have them available March to April. I have not seen the contracts yet. Kara sent some. They are supposedly sending some information back. I have not seen them yet, so I don't know what the content is.
So they would not start that year. March.
Correct. The question is there are there dollars attached to the option? That's my curiosity. I don't know if I want to lock it up for 6 months without some sort of money.
I agree. I just thought it was going to occur sooner.
My understanding.
It's getting there, but it's just-
Environmental protection and construction plan. They expect to be approved in July. Still hasn't been approved. They need that before they can start. They already had, someone found on their website, I think Chuck found on the website, they've already delayed the end date by 2 months because of these delays. You know, I don't know why New York State can't get their finger out of their left ear and get these things done on a timely basis.
Ask the governor.
Edward Gallagher for.
Yeah. Appraisal, he's all set. He's got the contract. He should be, he said I should have it next week, but right now the pressure's off.
And that's related to the laydown.
Correct, correct.
Right.
For some strange reason, we have to have appraisal to send to the state that says, hey, this is worth $1,400 a month or whatever it may be. And the issue, they're also doing the new leaf for that, so. Problem is that with Sunwitz, $1,400 a month. In appraisal, we could say, oh, the building's worth $1 million. It doesn't matter. We can do whatever we want after that. It's such a stupid law. Excuse my French.
Editorial.
It is. What was the one comment you had on the past ones you've done? Is that the wrong date or something?
Which one?
Oh, there's one I
Oh,
called you
yeah,
had the
'cause
wrong date.
Yeah, it was like January I sent it and it was the wrong date there.
Yeah.
You
Anyhow,
know, it's hard that first week of January.
okay, good. Anything else come before the committee, board?
We go to football.
I don't want to go to football. I'd rather be here.
The Bills are playing. Come on,
So what?
So what?
Yeah,
that's my team.
you know what
That's what they have. That's what they have
were my
replay
second
for.
team after the Giants until G got us $900 billion out of our pockets. They put a roof over it.
Yeah.